gentlemen. I'm Asmita and I welcome you all on behalf of Jamshedpur Management Association. JMA has started this brand new talk series celebrating the young and successful entrepreneurs of India under Young Achiever series. Our first speaker today is Mr. Satanik Roy, co-founder and chief product officer at HyperXchange. Although this whole session is about knowing him and his journey, let me give you a small introduction. Mr. Satanik Roy is in East India's first Forbes 30 under 30. He is a mechanical engineer turned entrepreneur, started from a dorm room building HyperXchange to over several millions of dollars of evaluation. HyperXchange has been invested by IIM Calcutta, Microsoft, CP Gurnani, who is the CEO at Tech Mahindra, Debu Mukherjee, CMO UV Group, Mukesh Soni, Executive Director JP Morgan, and several other investors. He has also authored 2 books, The Classic Retreat of Anarchy and I Met the Demon. He is a postgraduate from Stanford University, featured over CNBC, Hindustan Times, Times of India, and several other media platforms. He was featured as a case study in PM Modi's official government manual for PM Yuva. He is principal venture capital investment partner in Drishtikon Ventures, holding over 10 plus investments across tech sectors including drones, media, logistics, etc. He has spoken in several media forums and universities including IITs, IIMs, and was hosted and honored by the Consulate General of Scotland and Japan. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you on JMA platform, Shatnik. Everyone here is excited to know about your journey. We'll keep it conversational and last 20 minutes will be for audience questions. So the very first and basic question that comes to my mind is, being a mechanical engineer and a postgraduate from Stanford University, grabbing a fancy job would have been a piece of cake. So what was that trigger that prompted you to embark on this different path and journey of HyperXchange?
I always say this. I mean, we always have options. We have too many options in our life to choose from, right? Be it a job, be it probably starting a business, joining a family business, or probably being an entrepreneur, scaling something up from scratch and growing it. I mean, all these journeys are different, right? It's about us, what we choose to be, what's the reason that keeps us going every single morning, right? Be it a job, be it an entrepreneurial career, be it joining the family business, scaling that up, right? We all have a different story of our own and a different ambition of our own. It was for me to, my dreams, my passions were about creating a brand. The world will know someday, and probably that was the reason I chose the path over something else.
That's nice. So tell us about how HyperXchange came into being. What was this story behind the birth of it?
Uh, it dates back to my, grad days, way back in SRM. All right, and since then, the main thing was, I mean, I was working on something which was about to connect students within campuses. The idea was simple. I mean, the idea came up as, say, for example, all of us have a couple of, say, device, say, all of us, when we join a college, we are looking forward for the beds, books, etc., which are the exact same things. Say, for example, our seniors live back, right? And most importantly, the biggest issue out there, the biggest challenge out there, the juniors and the seniors never meet each other. I mean, the first years and the final years are the toughest to connect because, ragging issues, and probably your seniors, but not your super seniors. So that was the idea, what started from. And then, I mean, pivoting at every point today is today what the journey and story of HX today is probably completely different from what we started.
Right. Tell us more about HyperXchange. What is it? What do you do? And what are the products? All about it.
Sure. So HyperXchange is currently India's largest refurbished brand for electronics. Our main product lines include, mobile phones, laptops, tablets, televisions, and gadgets. All right. Having said that, what we are mainly focused into is towards creating a sustainable circular ecosystem. All right. because there's a huge cry about carbon negativity, environment positivity, all around the globe, and that is what we are very definitely focused on. And this has been the reform market has existed since long. It's a huge, $100 billion market plus size across the world. Having said that, 95% of this market is gray. So the only way to structure a gray market, structure an unstructured market, is to bring technology into its play. We are a tech-focused platform, tech-focused startup. We have over 7 patents in our technologies till date, and R&D is one of the main things we develop and work upon.
See, that's amazing to see you contributing to this sustainable future. So I've read somewhere that at HyperXchange you use something called Faraday, which is an AI-based machine. So
Correct.
could you share more information about it?
Sure. So the technology we are speaking about, see, what we realized is the market is unstructured because at the very core value, the product valuation of the device is not known, right? That's what the trend is, which led it to be a gray market forever. What we worked upon is how do we realize the value of a product at the very core. Say for example, today I'll just give you a small example. If you probably go to say a Gafar market in Delhi or a Lamington Road in Bombay, or say a Khidipur market in probably say in Kolkata, right? And you're trying to sell off your device. What does it usually happen? How is the experience? Someone will take in their hands and say, I'll pay you 2,000 for this, right? That's all. But why 2,000? Why not 2,200? Why not 1,800? Because that person thinks if I buy it for 2,000, I might be able to sell it for 7,000 or say 5,000, whatsoever the amount is. There is highly a clear, huge margin out there. Having said that, the gap, no one realizes what the product value is. What should it actually be valued at? Faraday is a device that we have developed in house, and we have several patents around it as well. All right, it uses three things out there: artificial intelligence, machine learning, and image processing. Image processing to figure out the physical condition of a device, machine learning to figure out the sensors, etc. Right, and the AI to process the data and figure out what the current valuation of the device is in the market, so on and so forth. So in a nutshell, it is one of its kind device which values and runs diagnostic on electronic devices.
Right, and that's amazing to hear. So I'm sure this journey of yours has had many ups and downs. So what were your initial challenges and major roadblocks in the journey?
Initial challenges and major roadblocks could be many. I mean, whenever you start something, I mean, for example, whenever you're starting anything out there, right? There are hundreds of things you need to learn up, scaling things up, right? And sometimes it's a good way of learning. Sometimes it's probably not so great lesson that happens within the journey. Having said that, I think yeah, sorry, it was muted suddenly. But how do you make sure you create something which can be sold out in the market? Because understanding a consumer behavior is one of the most and major tough challenge we probably fail to understand. I mean, we as entrepreneurs are so into our own products. We believe like this is probably the best product out there. Every one of us, whosoever starts in their entrepreneurial journey, we forget what the market actually demands, and we tend not to move towards the demand side, rather focus on what we think is right. So I personally believe that is one of the major challenges, and any entrepreneur, early in their career faces it. That is one of the major, I would say, thought process roadblock that one has to resolve at the very start. You're on mute.
Yeah, thanks. So next question, I mean, next point I would like to ask you is, uh, now any business cannot start with a capital. So you have some big names associated with you. So how did you get them? How did you get them associated with your brand? How did you get them to invest? Because many of the young people here would like to know how to approach the investors, how to get the funds.
Sure. Interestingly, while I did my grads in Chennai, right, I was in a constant move over the weekends to Bangalore, right, and as I always believe, I mean, whenever you are into something, be it in a startup ecosystem or probably working in a job, it's about making connections. It's about going to right people, just talking and probably seeking help, right? Things will fall in place. That was the exact same thing. I did not probably knew any of them from the beginning. I probably pitched to 500 investors, got rejected, and a couple of them said yes, and that is where the belief is. You need to figure out who believes in you. Rest the journey can figure out itself.
Right.
Networking
So
is
you must
is
believe in
is
you and your product.
networking is the key to any success. Unless you start networking with people around, go out, probably go out to the product conclaves that happen in every corner of the cities. And I see a lot of cities maturing in terms of, say, the ecosystem for scaling startups, etc. There are already big names. We had the first wave of entrepreneurship successful in this country. The Flipkarts and the Paytms and Freshdesk. They have proven this is a model which can even scale in India. Right now, we are probably becoming what San Francisco or what the Valley was, say, just around 30, 40 years back.
Right. Networking is the key, definitely. And also, if you believe in your product and yourself, I think you'll go a long way. So nowadays, there are many startups budding. Many young minds come up with innovative ideas, but down the line, sometimes these ideas, even if they are very brilliant and unique, they do not turn into successful business models. So, how did you make it possible? What were the hurdles you faced while scaling up, and how did you overcome them?
In a single line, I would say persistence is the key. All right. Having said that, I mean, uh, time and again, there were multiple challenges for us. I mean, there were endless number of times we probably thought this is the last week we can, roll everything, and probably next week we do not have the funds and we might shut down. Right. That is true for any startup. I mean, all the overnight success stories we see with the millions and billions dollars check happens after a certain stage. It happens after you have given everything for 5 years, 7 years at least to the journey. So 5 to 7 years is the minimum commitment you have to give yourself, and see, like, probably there are some sales happening. Unless sales are happening, and unless you give that time to yourself and to this journey, I don't think it will ever be successful. That is the reason most of the startups you see are not successful, is because of the fact, it's a 3 months, 6 months journey, or max to a year's journey, and they tend to give up. Persistence is the key.
Right. So now a major chunk of the population today, or the Gen Z or the millennials, they believe in this use and throw. They have this mindset of owning brand new things and not much into your using the used ones. So how do you what is your take on that, and do you have any special marketing strategies up your sleeve to cater to such customers?
Great. I mean, it's an interesting play. I mean, there's a R&D that's currently going on. All right. So let's say, for example, we have been focused on creating modular devices. All right. Modular devices. Say, for example, today, if you buy a certain, say, mobile phone from the market, right, and if it comes with, say, I don't know, say 32 megapixel back camera, 8 megapixel front camera, right, 32 mAh battery, you have to stick to that configurations. You cannot choose, no, I probably have a 32 megapixel back camera, but I'm a heavy, device user. So I would rather choose a 5600 mAh battery with the same device, which what you do not have a choice for. So one of the R&Ds that is currently going on is how do we create this in a modular form in terms of, say, for example, Lego blocks, right? Today I might feel I just want to go hiking, so I need a brilliant camera, as for example, also a great say battery, but tomorrow I might just stay at home, enjoy music. So I would love to place out the camera block, right, and place in a music block out there, right, as a speaker block out there. So it's one of the very interesting R&Ds I am like we are pursuing. It's one of the most ambitious projects out there, right? Having said that, those are things in line currently that are being developed. But on the other hand, the point you mentioned, like people are not looking forward to reuse. I feel it's about people do not have a choice. There's a lot of technological advancement that is happening. On the other hand, if you look at a certain generation of population, iPhone 13 has just been launched this week, right? How many of us are going and grabbing? Well, we aren't. Probably the next iPhone, someone from this, from this set of people buy, would probably be an iPhone 11, iPhone 12 still, right? We aren't grabbing because if you look at the particular technology changes that are happening, right? The delta change isn't much. It's about getting a better camera every time. It's about probably updating to probably to a better battery life and creating a more miniature type of a feature with a as much as glass possible rather than having anything else on the screen, right? But in terms of processor speeds, etc., are very standard, right? So not much of technological advancements are happening. So reuse is something which is not something which is available clearly in the market. But definitely, if yes, why not? Right? Very similar to what happened with the Uber pool concept. Once we had the option, we started pooling. Then probably spending X amount of rupees, which is almost twice for going for a single ride. Right? It's about the availability and how do you really bring it into the market.
Right. So what are some of the products at HyperXchange, the refurbished ones, or maybe if you're planning to launch your own line of products, what are these
Uh,
products?
so these are mainly so around I would say 70% of our business is in mobile phones today, right? Uh, Around 10-15 odd percentage is into laptops, right? What we are now scaling up as well, right? The rest of the product lines includes televisions and accessories.
Okay, great. And who are your competitors in today's Indian market?
In terms of the current Indian market, there are only two major competitors out there, which has built a significant brand name out there nationally. That is Cashify and Nyansa. But having said this, the market is really open. I mean, it's $100 billion opportunity. Three of us, Cashify, Nyansa, and HyperXchange, together are not even $1 billion market altogether. So that's the opportunity out there. I mean, anyone going out there presenting probably working in this segment currently can definitely work something great in the next 5 to 7 years. That's a market opportunity that lies ahead for this space.
Right. What are the some of the differences that you find in the Indian market and the market outside India, the Western or other Asian market?
It's the only difference would be significance of the margins that play. All right. So India is more about numbers. Right? You have a huge population out there, so you try to figure out how do you penetrate more into the tier twos and the tier threes of the country. And in terms of say on a global basis, you probably we start our US operations. It's about the margins we are able to scale out over there.
I see. So, by making refurbished goods exciting, you are definitely contributing to a more sustainable future. So, what is your plan to take it to the next level? What's your vision?
See, as I just mentioned, I mean, the one of the interesting projects I just mentioned. So there are a couple of pilot house projects we are currently working on, right, at the back end, trying to trying to be as ambitious as possible, right? Not just in terms of recycling, but also how do we create better sustainability out there in the future. One of the facts, like HyperXchange plants a tree for every product sold. So basically selling 20,000, 30,000 products a month, we are planting a forest every year, right? Even based on climate positivity, those are few of the aspirations we are looking forward to now extend and probably see feel how can we make it a larger scale projects, right? Those are the things we are focused on currently, and definitely R&D is something which has been the lifeline for HX, and that is a major thing we have always worked upon and currently working upon.
I've also heard that you you plant a tree for every
Exactly.
product you
That's what
sell.
I just mentioned, right?
Right. So that's I find it very fascinating.
Thank you.
Uh, my next question for you is so it's very easy to say, find your passion and you won't have to work for your life. But how does one do that?
That's a tough one, right? Uh, I mean, we can be inspired in many ways. I mean, we can be inspired by stories around us, right? We can probably be inspired about the PR that is, suddenly, say, hyping these people. I mean, think about Girish, right? He just took Fresh Desk to a $10 billion IPO in Nasdaq, one of the largest and prolific moments for India, standing over there. We have other successful stories from our history, right? The so I mean, since 1970s, we have Indian companies which have been listed to Nasdaq. There have been several startups which made global exits. Flipkart, one of the Sunny and Bini Mansal, off starting out their office from a flat room to now scaling it to over 30-40 billion dollar valuations, right? And think about even the young success stories out there. Say what Ritesh did with Oyo, right? It's phenomenal. These are probably the stories that could make you believe, like, good guys with brilliant ambition always win, right? At the first place. And definitely there could also be personal motivations where you feel, uh, how about creating something that stays on forever, even probably decades and centuries after uh, you are not there, or probably the world knows a name, right? Which probably at some point of time it was just you probably sitting on the roof of a dorm room, right? Dreaming about creating a brand. So there can be multiple ways to look at it, but end of the day, it's about execution. So ideas are brilliant, but unless executed, I think nothing really falls in place.
Right. How, I mean, can you share two or a few most memorable experiences in your journey? They can be good ones, rewarding ones, as well as tough ones.
Uh, all right. So basically, this was an event. I was pitching to a very senior investor. I mean, he's a global investor, etc. Right. And uh, I basically last night I worked with my co-founder to create the pitch deck, and we were traveling in a different city to pitch him. All right. Just the morning we landed over there. That was the point I realized it was in my pen drive, and I forgot to get my pen drive with me. Right after we landed in the different city, I think the only possible thing was to call it off, right? And the idea was, let's see, whatever happens, happens. We'll figure it out. I go over there and download the first slide, right? Place it up over there and say, how about let me just take you through a conversation rather than giving a presentation, right? We successfully managed to get the second conversation done and following up the investment we raised. But I think that was one of the most brilliant experiences I always mention when mentioning what are the things that happened, which was funny and interesting in my journey. That was one, and probably the second one, I would say. So one of my co-founder, Dipanjan. All right. So Dipanjan is one of my co-founder, and he himself was a very senior person in terms of the global market. He was leading he was the vice president globally for TechM. All right. So the first time I was pitching him more towards like an investor than a co-founder was the fact when he came up and told me, Satanik, you're just 19. I think this idea has a brilliant opportunity, but get a good CEO. Get a good CEO because you're too young to probably grab the opportunity that lies ahead today. Even if say Sergey or Larry, the co-founders of Google, would have been the first CEO of Google. Google might not be Google, right? And my simple answer to the entire conversation was, why don't you become the CEO? I mean, why be rather an investor? Become the CEO and take this forward, right? I think that was one of the best choices I made in my life, right? So while I do not come from a family background where it is about business, and say for example, management is something we just learned up in terms of textbook. And third of all, the experience matters. I had zero corporate experience altogether, right? So based on that, here we had a brilliant team. One in their mid 40s, one in their mid 30s, and I was in my early 20s, right? So these are the people who came up with the experiences, and I was probably the person who was with the out of the box ideas, and that really gelled up well. That happened to be one of the best things that could have, made the HX story as successful as it is today.
So right idea and right people,
Correct.
very important. So as you mentioned, you are not from a business family. How easy or difficult was it for you to get your family on board when you first started this journey?
I actually happened to be a hostelier right at the very early age. Right from 16, I was staying outside, in hostel, uh, for studies, etc. Right. So basically, I had the freedom. I basically had the freedom, and to be very honest, I never had an issue where I was fighting with my parents, trying to convince them to be in a startup. By the time I graduated, HX had already scaled significantly. We had raised our first investment. Things are already out there. Right. I personally, it was not a challenge for me. So, and in terms of support, I definitely feel my friends, families, everyone was supportive of the very fact. I chose a different career and a different path from rest others.
Glad to know. I mean, the scenarios are definitely changing nowadays. So,
Yes.
as running a business must be very exhausting. So, how do you re-energize yourself? What is your fuel?
Uh, I think many a times I come up with ideas probably. Ideas that could happen, that could not happen, but uh, you know, planning for the future. Not just planning. Dreaming about the future, right? Say, for example, if you are probably dreaming, in a year's time, raising my next round of funds, I'll probably uh, put the HX thing up, say the HX brand up in Manhattan, right? Or probably I want to see myself, on say certain revenue lines we have in plan for, right? So those are the dreams and aspirations you have, right? Those are the dreams and aspirations you have at the end of the day that makes you think, I'll probably wake up earlier and work 10x harder than I'm doing today.
Right. You have also authored two books. So, how, I mean, so you must be a voracious reader to write two books. So, tell us more about these books.
Uh, well, I think if not an entrepreneur, I would have probably would love to have been a cricketer, right? Though I do not have any formal cricket, any formal cricket training, etc. But having said that, writing was always something I loved about, right? Right at my young age, it was probably something which just happened on its own, right? And so two of my books which have been published, one of them is a poetry. The first one is a collection of poetry. So basically, these are different versions of poetry. Not nothing related to each other. So that is the reason it's named as the classic retreat of anarchy,
Mhm.
right? And even chaos has a pattern, all right. The second book is actually a crime thriller, very similar to a scaling startup, and it mentions like how ambitious and how say deep can founders go at times to make sure they realize what they dream about, right? So that's about ambition altogether, right? These are the two books out there. There are a couple of manuscripts which probably once I get some time off, exit HX or probably exit a couple of more startups I'm planning for, right?
Yeah.
May take out time and complete those manuscripts. That's the idea.
Great, great. So, how was the experience of being the first East India's first Forbes 30 under 30?
Uh, I still remember, so basically the text came from Forbes when I was traveling for a meeting or something. I was in my car, right? And that was the times, they texted me up, please keep it, like, you know, currently do not publicly declare it, but you have been chosen as the Forbes 30 under 30 for India category. All right. And it was, uh, to a certain extent, it was probably a dream that came true because, since I was 18, I have seen this Forbes 30 under 30 thing out there. And making it to 40 under 40 is easier because you have a lot of time period around you, right? But making it to 30 under 30 because, by the time you realize your scale, right, you are already 30, right? So that's a tough one. So making it to it was definitely great, right? And the second time that happened, Forbes Asia happened, so it was basically I did not have prior intimations or anything. I was at my office checking my mail when I received a mail, with a declaration of Forbes 30 and 30 Asia category as well, right? And having said that, a lot of people ask me like, how do you, what do you really feel about it and everything out there? Definitely it's great. It's definitely an aspiration and ambition to be on, right? Similar to someone who wants to be on the Fortune 40 and the 40 as well someday, right? But
Agree.
end of the day, you enjoy it, and somewhere you just put it across and move on. You're moving on for the next big dream, right? This is something definitely, credibility you have just earned and put up out there. But having said that, the next day is again same, right? You're hustling out there, probably trying to make things happen. Nothing really changes in life.
Right. So, as you mentioned, every day is a hustle. So, what is a day at a normal day at HyperXchange, and how do you balance the personal and professional life being a
I
co-founder?
don't. Okay, so I'll answer your second question first, and then go to the first question. So see, it's not a challenge. You need to realize like why do we want to balance our professional and personal life, because of the very fact like we want to move away from a certain thing and probably get ourselves off, probably whatsoever, right? But I see it in a different way. I see even HX as my personal life altogether, right? So I, I do not see the need to have a clarity between personal and professional life, because I think everywhere in everything I am currently doing, it's somewhere over there for everything, right? The discussions I am having, say for example, I'm sitting with my friends, etc., right? Definitely there are other discussions, but end of the day, you end up speaking about the same thing over and over. This is something I'm planning. What do you think about it? This is what happened, this, that, everything around it. So I don't see that to be where you need to have a clarity between personal and professional life. That's a personal choice, right? Answering your first question, no, the day at HX does not end. All right. There's always someone or the other working at office, right? We have different shifts out there, right? So it's about when do you want to join the team, when do you want to just leave out of the office. I usually start my day early around 7:30. I'm at office already, right? And by the time it's 11:30, or say sometimes even later, right? That's the time I leave. And in between, there are thousands of different things happening. Probably, we are now opening 100 stores out there in 100 cities, right? So probably you're meeting those people out there, and there's a part of, say, fund discussions that are happening. Say, for example, for global expansion, probably your marketing team has just put up a wrong image out there. You're probably shouting at them, right? And probably figuring out how can we better scale operations, branding, etc., so on and so forth. That's what happens in the entire day of at HX.
Right. So, we are looking forward to having your branch here in Jamshedpur,
Sure.
definitely. So, when you introspect from the day you started HyperXchange and to the day now to today, maybe. So, what all has been achieved? I mean, how do you summarize it?
Uh, I would say a couple of points over here. First thing, I have grown myself personally, right? I was giving this example to someone, I guess. So, say for example, even today, uh, say everything just goes off the table, right, and goes off, and that is quite possible, even though there is a 1% chance around it, but there is still a chance. If something of that sort happens, I'll probably go back to a job, but honestly, it won't be about salary negotiations or anything, right? I'll probably go back and say to a certain company and say, no, this part of your business is today a 100 crore business. I can scale this up to 500 crores, 700 crores, whatsoever in next 3 years, but I want 100 crores out of it. That's the type of negotiations I would have, right? And I think that level of confidence or that level of thought process was only possible since this journey happened, right? So personal clarity in terms of work, in terms of ability, and in terms of, say, passion and also interest was something I definitely learned about myself in this journey. The next point would be somewhere we made a mark out there in the industry in terms of a brand, in terms of the people that uses a HX product on a regular basis, right? We probably many of them would probably not even know my name, but they're probably using a HX product out there. Right? That's that thing you create. You touch 100,000 lives, you be the reason for 1,000 smiles, right? Those things cannot ever be valued unless you are into something which has created a significant value out there in the market. Right? That would be the second part. And third part, definitely, I would say, we there were a lot of employees for us over this period of journey. A lot of them started their career with us, early their careers with us. A lot of them, was in their corporate career, probably took sabbatical for years for, say, family reasons whatsoever. Came back and joined us. I learned those stories, and I feel somewhere we were able to uh, create a level of, say, people who today, even if they go out, has learned something out of HX, right? So those would be few of the brilliant things I would mention in the first point, and then there's definitely a lot of things around. I mean, the type of ecosystem we have been able to create for Eastern India, since not many technological companies out there, right? So those will definitely play a role as we have a discussion down the line.
Great. You've been able to touch many lives, I
Thank
think. So, if one wants to access or buy any product of the HX platform, how does one go about it?
So there are multiple options right now. hxcart.com, right? If you go over Flipkart or Amazon, right, you get a HX product over there. All the major marketplaces, Flipkart, Amazon, Paytm, name it, they're over there, right? Be it offline, now we are setting up the offline stores. We already have our distribution ready. So online, offline, website, marketplace, anything.
Great. So, being a young achiever yourself, what is your message for the to someone who is planning to embark on a similar journey?
Uh, I would say, plan for something you're passionate about, because this is going to take up a major time of your life, probably the most important time of your life. I am sure everyone joining us over here today are probably in their mid 20s, all right, or probably even earlier than that, right? Having said that, this is something going to take the most valuable times of your life, right? Choose something which you are passionate enough to stay by. I mean, as I just mentioned, this is not a journey about, say, overnight journey. This is not a 3 months, 6 months, 1 year journey. This is a 5 years minimum journey, minimum. After that, you start tasting success. But those 5 years of hustle will be different, will be very difficult. Always remember one thing. I mean, there's a quote: "Today is difficult, tomorrow will be more difficult. Day after tomorrow will be sunshine." I mean, persistence is the key, and ideas are great, but execution is is the thing that will make it happen.
Right. So I think that's all from my side. Now
Yep.
we can open it for the audience. If they have any questions, please go ahead and you can interact with Chatnik. If
I,
you have
s-
any, you can post it on in the chat box as well.
I see a question over there from someone, from Shivam. Uh, what is your view on social entrepreneurship, startups, and the ecosystem behind its recent success stories? I mean, every of the ideas are out there are great when executed right, right. End of the day, social startups, even if you see the social startup category, right, these aren't the NGOs that are running. These are actually making business, making profits, booking profits out there from the market, right? While definitely there's the entire idea is how do we create a better ecosystem out there for people to access, etc., right? But you are in a social startup, or if you're not in a social startup, end of the day execution matters, and also matters how do you really plan this execution around. I mean, in terms of financial scale, in terms of growth and everything around.
I hope Shivam that answers your question. So any more questions from the audience or anything you want to share with Chatnik?
From my side, I would, thanks for having me over here, and I think it's a brilliant evening and a good discussion we had. Uh, I have been talking to a lot of lately. I've been talking to a lot of colleges. I get to hear a lot of questions out there, and I see the passion that's over there in terms of the new entrepreneurs, the new generation of entrepreneurs, probably the third wave of entrepreneurs out there right now. What I would say, right? And today we have a lot more visibility out there. There are a lot of strategies that could be worked out, created, made out, right? Things are falling brilliantly in place. At the same time, somewhere I would always say this: do not go for mentors. I mean, there cannot be a mentor in life in terms of business, right? I see a lot of people putting up the mentor, quote out there, and I do not believe in it, because these are probably most of the people who have never created a successful business of their own, right? Uh, so somewhere tips do not matter. What really matters at the end of the day is actually who is with you along in the journey to take this forward. Yes,
Yeah,
I think we have one more question out there.
yeah. From Shukti.
Yeah, sure. When did you first dream of this, and when did you actually start on the implementation? All right, Shakti, I mean, first dream about it, I would say around so actually HX is my second startup. All right, so my first startup was into the financial segment. All right, and we had a good exit, sold it off. HX was my second startup out there, right? So that's a very lesser known fact for many of the people, but because it was in the B2B financial domain, right? Having said that, and that was the time I would say, it was around 2015, exactly 2015. 2013 was the year I joined my grads. I was 18. 2015 was the year I was dreaming about how do I now create a consumer startup so that the brand value stays out there. People get to know a brand out there, building a brand. Formally, we started executing it. We February 2016 was the month we finally got formally incorporated, and since then is the journey.
Awesome. Yeah, there's one more question.
Yeah, how to get much confident on our idea of startup, because after a lot of analysis we can't ensure 100% perfection that all the things will work according to us. This situation, how to manage things. Great question, Bhagwan. I think a lot of us spend a lot of time trying to analyze the market when most of us do not know. When most of us do not know how does our market analysis actually works, right? We do not uh, tend to see what is the market size, etc. When we start early in our career, and it's a common fact. And I mean, it is something which inherently is amongst most of the entrepreneurs, unless you're probably starting off at an age of say 40 or say late 30s, when you have a corporate experience, which in many of the cases is not true. So please do not spend much time based on ideation, because I think execution is the key. And once you start, as I just mentioned, HX was a completely different idea when we started, right? As we scaled, we pivoted to new things that were happening in the market, and because it was happening. So probably something you think you are going to do the rest of your life is completely different. You will probably be doing, say, just 18 months from now. All right. Start at something. Start at a point. That is the most important part out there. Once you have started, you'll start realizing what the market demands, how the market is demanding, what is it demanding, right? And you will work accordingly. So that's a key out there. Even if you think about Netflix, Netflix started as a DVD service provider in US. Netflix killed its own business to start online streaming because, and when it did, it was already doing very well in terms of, say, DVD rentals. So the market out there, the investors and everyone out there said the CEO is crazy. He's killing his own business. He replied, if I do not do it today, someone else will be doing it for me. Right? So, a lot difference. I mean, we tend to think this is something we are going to do all our lives, but the market is always dynamic. Market will change. Will follow up with the market and its trends. That is over there. Start at some point. You will definitely find your way. Do you
Yeah, we
believe luck do have a role to play in our passion and never? Definitely. I mean, starting a startup is like buying a lottery ticket in Vegas, right? You're not sure if it's going to be successful or not, but end of the day you still go for it and try it because someone somewhere have been successful in it. On the other hand, we cannot sit back thinking about our luck, right? Things might fall in place, things might not fall in place. End of the day you'll still be achieving something out of it, as I just mentioned, right? With all the experiences you built over this period of time, right? You go out there and you won't negotiate for salaries anymore, right? You won't negotiate why 6 LPA, why not 7 LPA, right? You just say, I'll take up this part of the of your business and scale this from 100 CR to say 700 CR and give me 100 CR out of it. That's it. Very similar to something I mentioned Manu Jain of Xiaomi is doing for Xiaomi India. MI India, Manu Jain, the CEO, he is from IIM Calcutta, right? But think about, he's basically an employee of MI as the CEO of MI, right? But think about the part he played. He took he created the entire MI business for India. So, and I'm definitely sure he's a stockholder right now in the global company. But that's the type of executions you do once you have that confidence, or once you have created some part of the stories. Probably it doesn't have to be always a short one, and it's a $1 billion story that you create. 99% of the chance you that won't be. 99 of the percent of the chance is that won't be. Yet you have to go out there, give that shot to yourself.
right. Any more questions? So, Shatnik, meanwhile, I would like to ask you, is there a basic education necessary for to start a business? Because many times we think that maybe we should know, we should have the knowledge of marketing or business analytics, or we should have hold a MBA to start a business and make it successful.
Uh, both sides true. I mean, definitely experiences give you a better hand at things, right? But not necessarily, everyone who has probably had a PhD degree had started things up. So it's your call, it's your passion, right? Yet when you are into it, you have to learn things up. Today, say for example, if my marketing team comes up and tells me this issue we are having, right? I have to have a definite answer for it. If I do not, the fact is tomorrow I cannot manage a team out there. I mean, someone would ask me to, probably say do this. I just say yes to it because I do not know. I do not know the things around it. As I go back and say, give me some time, I'll get back to you. I go back and study about it and figure out uh, what are the best practices around it, and then give it up to the best person out there to handle it. Right. Yet I have to know the jack of all trades. So those things one has to learn up as they skill. Right. Say for example, I don't come from a CAC background, but building a website over Magento versus over Shopify is something I had to learn up because I was in the business. It was in the business where website played a very very important role in terms of our growth. So I had to learn in the up. Those are very similar things. Anyone when you fall in that space, right, and you have to leap your way up, we learn it. Of
Right. So learning should never stop.
course, it cannot stop.
Yeah. Okay, so I think there are no more questions,
Sure.
and we have finished well within time. So thank you, Shatnik. It was a
Thank
wonderful session, and we were really honored and excited to have you here. Looking forward to more such collaborations, and all the very best to you and HyperXchange. So thank
Thank you so
you
much.
to our audience as well. And for more upcoming events, please follow JMA on all the social media platforms. Thank you. Have a great evening.